There are battles you watch because they're spectacular. And then there are battles you watch because they feel wrong. Not wrong as in unfair. Not wrong as in poorly written. Wrong in the way a calm ocean feels wrong when you know a storm is hiding underneath. Wrong in the way a smiling man feels wrong when you can tell he's already decided he might die today, and he's fine with it. That's Diablo. And this fight, Diablo versus Feldway, doesn't just raise the stakes. It changes what stakes even means. Because for once, the most terrifying thing on the battlefield isn't the so-called final boss. It's the guy grinning like he's at a dinner party while feeding himself to oblivion. Here's the hook. Diablo's strategy is something no rational mind would choose. Not because it's risky, but because it's fundamentally insane. Void Collapse isn't a technique. It's not a weapon. It's not a move you master with practice and talent. Void Collapse is an event, a cosmic eraser, a force that doesn't care who you are, what you've achieved, or how many cheat skills you've stacked. It devours existence itself. It doesn't kill you. It makes you as if you were never there. And Diablo knows that. That's what makes this so disturbing, because when Diablo steps into the void, it's not ignorance, it's conviction. Not certainty, not proof. Conviction. He saw Zegion survive after absorbing Void Collapse, and he built a theory on top of that miracle. If your body is bestowed by Rimuru, then maybe even something born from the chaos before hell can be circulated, tamed, weaponized. Maybe. That word matters. Diablo isn't betting on a guarantee. He's betting on belief. And that is the first trap in this entire sequence. The story doesn't ask you to admire Diablo's power. It asks you to stare at his faith. Because Diablo isn't trying to win like a normal person. He's trying to win like someone who doesn't fear the cost. He steps into annihilation and sustains himself through sheer will, using Temptation King Azazel to imitate regeneration while his body is erased faster than it can adapt. That's not durability. That's not regeneration. That's a man forcing reality to keep him alive because he refuses to accept dying before he's finished. And the sickest part? He's composed. He's elegant. He hides the madness flawlessly. He even enjoys it. And that right there is the loop that keeps pulling you deeper. Every time you think Diablo has reached the limit, he smiles like the limit is just another thing he can politely ignore. Now, Feldway in front of him. Feldway is the opposite kind of monster. He is absolute confidence given a human shape. A man armed with Drago Nova's finest gifts, who has never had to wonder if he'll win. His whole existence is built on inevitability, on the quiet assumption that resistance is temporary and victory is the natural state of the world. So when he clashes with Diablo, something snaps, not immediately, but slowly, like a bone under pressure, because Feldway isn't supposed to be challenged. And yet here he is, locked into a fight that shouldn't be possible. At first, he treats Diablo like an inconvenience, a delay, a mosquito buzzing near a god's ear. But the longer it drags on, the more the battlefield starts to whisper a single unacceptable truth. This isn't a mismatch. This is equilibrium. And Feldway can't stand that. You can hear it in the line that spills out of him, raw and offended. How can someone like you compete with me? It's not a tactical question. It's a spiritual crisis. Because Feldway's worldview doesn't have room for someone like Diablo standing on the same level. It's an insult to the hierarchy of existence. A demon shouldn't rise this far. A servant shouldn't reach this height. A being built for obedience shouldn't make a god feel pressure. But Diablo answers with quiet certainty. No theatrics, no yelling, no proving himself. He's simply done holding back. And he didn't come to delay Feldway. He came prepared to kill him. That's when Feldway tries to retreat into strategy. He tells himself this duel doesn't matter, that once the sacred tree falls and Iverjay descends, Diablo will perish regardless. That efficiency demands he move on. But pride refuses, because Feldway isn't just fighting Diablo, he's fighting the humiliation of being resisted. And rulers of the world don't accept resistance, not from anyone, especially not from a demon. So Feldway chooses ego over strategy. He says it out loud, like a vow carved into stone. Before I destroy the world, I will bury you with my own hands. And that is the moment the balance shifts. Because now Feldway is serious. Not because he got tricked, because Diablo indulged him into it. That's the second loop. Diablo doesn't force Feldway into a mistake. He invites Feldway to reveal his true self, and Feldway walks right in. Diablo gets exactly what he wants. Feldway at full power, and Diablo laughs, softly, delighted, like a man being handed a gift. How delightful. That laugh matters, because it's not the laugh of someone winning. It's the laugh of someone who finally gets to experience what he came for. This is Diablo's desire, and it's terrifying in its purity. He wants to win only after his enemy reveals everything. Not half their strength, not a cautious version, not a restrained, calculated opponent. Everything. He wants the whole truth of his enemy, exposed and screaming. So the battle restarts in earnest, and suddenly the air changes. This isn't domination. This isn't a flex. It's a knife fight between two monsters who refuse to blink. Feldway unleashes the full breadth of his accumulated techniques, refined through endless victories, and Diablo meets them blow for blow. The exchange becomes so perfect it feels unnatural, like two equations balancing in midair. And Feldway hates it, because Diablo isn't just matching him. Diablo is reading him, assessing him, judging him, and Diablo's assessment cuts deeper than any strike. Feldway's power is vast, but it lacks harmony. His body and technique are misaligned. His potential is underused. That's the kind of insult you can't parry. It's not you're weak, it's you're wasting what you have. And Diablo, by contrast, fights with something rarer than raw power. A battle sense so refined it feels godlike. Not because he was born with it, because he obsessed over it. Because he loves it. Combat isn't a means for Diablo. It's a form of worship. A single claw grazes Feldway's face. Blood appears, and the humiliation detonates. Because blood isn't just damage, it's proof. Proof that Feldway can be touched. Proof that Feldway can be marked. Proof that Feldway can be made to feel small. And Diablo twists the knife with the most personal taunt imaginable. I guess my body, bestowed by Rimuru-sama, is superior. That line is surgical. It isn't just, I'm better. It's your godhood is being outperformed by my master's leftovers. And Feldway falls for it. Of course he does. Because now it isn't just about winning. It's about restoring the natural order. So Feldway's fury rises, and in that fury, he becomes predictable. And Diablo, this is the part that makes your skin crawl, has been waiting for predictability. Within the layered domain of Temptation World, Diablo does something monstrous. He doesn't merely counter Feldway's abilities. He seals them. He manipulates information particles themselves, disrupting Feldway's god-tier powers and reducing them to silence. Its precision so insane it borders on heresy, like watching someone rewrite the laws of physics mid-punch. And Feldway finally sees it, not just Diablo's skill, but the void circulating within him, a force capable of ending the world. The realization is so sharp, Feldway can only spit out the truth like a curse. You're insane! And Diablo accepts it like praise, because Diablo's insanity isn't chaos. It's control taken to the extreme. He isn't losing himself in the void. He's balancing on the edge of annihilation with perfect posture, smiling as if the abyss is just another floor he can stand on. Feldway hopes Diablo will lose control. He wants that. He needs that. Because if Diablo loses control, then Feldway doesn't have to accept what's happening. He can call it luck. He can call it self-destruction. He can call it inevitability. But the colder truth settles in. Diablo won't lose control. He's too far gone, too devoted, too perfectly tuned for this. And that's when the fear turns into regret. Feldway realizes too late that he should have destroyed Diablo before Rimuru ever entered the picture. Because Rimuru didn't just give Diablo power, he gave him a body that can host impossibility. He gave him the foundation to weaponize the unweaponizable. And while Diablo and Feldway clash, the terror spreads among the observers. Not from Feldway, but from Diablo. That's another loop, another trap, another tightening grip. Because the story flips your expectations. You start watching like, how will they stop Feldway? And suddenly you're thinking, who stops Diablo if he breaks? Zelario is the first to truly grasp it. He sees the void and internally screams, "What are you thinking, Diablo?" But he can't interfere. If he moves, he helps Feldway. So he does the only thing that feels worse than acting. He watches. He trusts. Even though that trust feels like insanity. Sylvia senses it. Elmazia understands it instantly. Their conclusion is chillingly simple. Only Rimuru can stop Diablo. And that belief, normally comforting, becomes a source of dread. Because Rimuru is gone. Feldway erased him. Elmazia clings to certainty that Rimuru will return, but Diablo's reckless calm shakes even her. He's doing something so dangerous, so nonchalantly. That's the emotional core. Diablo's composure isn't reassuring, it's horrifying. Because calm in the face of apocalypse isn't bravery. Sometimes it's detachment, sometimes it's obsession. Sometimes it's the look of someone who has already accepted the world might end and decided it's worth it. And then, like the story knows you need oxygen before it drowns you, it throws in something painfully human. Laplace inserts himself, reveals he's Sylvia's husband, Elmasia's father. A family reunion in the middle of cosmic annihilation, and it's awkward, bitter, almost absurd. Elmasia dismisses him as a clown wearing a weird mask. It's funny, but it's not relief, it's grounding. It reminds you that even while gods and demons gamble with existence, people are still people. Hurt still hurts, shame still stings, love still shows up late, wearing the wrong face. And then reality snaps back like a whip. Kigali and Leon demand answers. Zelario's verdict is merciless. No, there's nothing you can do. That line lands like a coffin closing, because it confirms what you've been feeling. This battle has surpassed strategy, alliances, and willpower. All that remains is endurance. Waiting. Either Rimuru returns, or the world pays the price of Diablo's gamble, and the fear becomes explicit. Elmasia says it softly, like she's afraid the universe will hear her. If Diablo's void loses control, the world will end. Not might. Will. And she follows it with the only prayer that makes sense. I can only pray that Rimchan returns before that happens. That's the payoff to the dread the story has been building. The threat isn't Feldway. The threat is Diablo failing. Diablo slipping, Diablo becoming the disaster. And then Tia, sweet, stubborn Tia, cuts through the suffocation with gallows humor. She clings to the fact that her comrades are together. If it ends, she'll face it smiling. And if the world collapses, she's already chosen who to blame. Then I'll complain to Rimuru Chi. It's absurd, and it's the last warm thing you feel before the next impact hits. Because elsewhere, Guy and Velzard get serious. The air itself becomes lethal. Testarossa interrogates Moss about the defense barrier with a gaze scarier than the enemy. Moss knows the truth. It shouldn't hold, but survival demands confidence. Rain tries to joke her way out, promising to call Testarossa Wanisama if it fails, and gets nothing but a sigh. No one is laughing anymore. Prepare for the impact, and then Velzard unleashes it. Whiteout absorb. A catastrophic shock slams into the barrier. Sound lags behind the force. That's how you know it's real. And as the battlefield trembles, Feldway's composure finally breaks. The curse on Velzard is destroyed. Diablo is bloodied, exhausted, and smiling like he's having the time of his life. Oh, is something the matter? That taunt isn't just arrogance, it's psychological warfare. Diablo isn't just fighting Feldway's power, he's fighting Feldway's mind. Because Feldway's greatest weakness isn't lack of strength, it's lack of adaptability. He's never had to improvise under pressure, he's never had to accept an equal. So Diablo keeps pressing where it hurts until Feldway makes the most dangerous decision of all. He abandons restraint, he gives the order he can't revoke. Milim, destroy the sacred tree! And now the story tightens the noose. Because Milim's stampede will continue, the sacred tree will fall. And when it falls, the world follows. Feldway braces for Diablo's finishing blow, but it never comes. Diablo just grins, and Feldway realizes the truth too late. Diablo isn't looking at him anymore. His gaze is fixed beyond, at something else. Something Feldway didn't calculate. Something worse than being killed, being surprised. And then the apocalypse arrives in Milim's hands. A nebula of star-killing power condensed between her palms. Drago Nova, extinction incarnate. A beam capable of destroying even a star system with ease. Even Veldora admits defeat. Even I can't nullify that. Feldway revels. This is his inevitability, his proof, his victory. The beam tears toward the sacred tree at near light speed. And Chloe, Veldora, and Yuki stand there, that unflinching. Not because they can stop it, because there's nowhere left to run. And then, miracle. Space waivers. Time resumes. Rimuru returns at the exact instant of doom, and he does the only thing that makes sense for him. He eats it. He swallows Drago Nova into imaginary space. The world survives unscathed, at the cost of Rimuru's agony, and he complains like the universe just inconvenienced him. Seriously, that really freaking hurts. That line is comedic, but it's also the most heroic thing he could say. Because it tells you he's still Rimuru, still human enough to whine, still stubborn enough to carry the pain anyway. Behind the scenes, Ciel's perfect timing isn't luck, it's calculation. And Gaia's cries reach Milim, weakening the berserk control. Hope blooms, not through domination, through connection, through memory, through bonds that refuse to die. Rimuru doesn't waste time celebrating. He tries to restrain Milim, gets headbutted through his resistances, and realizes again that holding back a natural disaster hurts. But he refuses to escalate. He chooses endurance because he believes she can return. And he's right. He observes. He understands. Milim responds to familiar voices: Rimuru, Veldora, Gaia. He projects the outside world through Argos, showing Eurazania restored, allies alive, comrades safe. The message is blunt. Your rage isn't protecting anyone anymore, so stop. And then he speaks to her directly, not like an enemy, but like someone who refuses to let her drown. All of your comrades are safe. Stop rampaging and regain your senses. Gaia echoes him, gentle and persistent. And the breakthrough doesn't come from force. It comes from embarrassment, from familiarity, from the reminder that she's seen, known, and cared for. Milim returns. Her monstrous aura dissolves. The battlefield falls silent. A catastrophe ends not with conquest, but awakening. And while everyone exhales, Rimuru turns back and notices something he almost missed. Diablo, ruined. He pushed himself past the limit, burned away his own existence through reckless power. Even as his body collapses, he smiles, accepting annihilation like it's a nap. And Rimuru, who's been holding the world together with his bare hands, doesn't hesitate. He saves him the only way possible: his own cells. A potion disguised, delivered beyond Feldway's reach. And Diablo is restored instantly, fully, like the void never touched him. And Diablo stands there, revived and exultant, ready to serve again like nothing happened. Rimuru says something quiet, sincere, almost dangerous in its intimacy. You're the only one I can rely on. And Diablo lights up like a man being given purpose. That's the payoff to everything. Because this entire arc isn't just about power levels. It's about devotion. Diablo isn't strong because he wants to rule. He's strong because he wants to belong. He wants to be worthy. He wants to stand at Rimuru's side, even if it costs him his existence. And when Feldway returns to the fight, the script flips again. Diablo isn't merely surviving now. He's winning. Decisively. Rimuru realizes it with disbelief. The clash he expected isn't even a clash. Diablo is pushing Feldway back. And Feldway's calculations crumble because Diablo has stabilized the void. Not as a desperate gamble. As a fuel source. Circulating it through a body reinforced by Rimuru's omnipotent cells, infinite regeneration outpacing destruction itself. No energy consumption, no endurance war. Diablo doesn't run out. Every strike Feldway lands is erased instantly. And Feldway realizes the final humiliation. His existence may be superior, but Diablo's combat ability is now beyond him, and the gap will never close. He scrambles for subordinates. Hope after hope collapses. Vega is gone. Zelario betrayed him. Fen was defeated. Jahil already handled. Yuki even shows up just to mock him, flaunting teleport like it's nothing. Feldway's composure breaks. A god who never learned to adapt finally meets an opponent who thrives on chaos. And then Diablo ends it. End of World Requiem. Feldway drops. Rimuru praises Diablo sincerely, admitting he never expected him to win. And Diablo can barely stand, devotion holding him upright. But the nightmare refuses to die cleanly. Feldway starts to regenerate, muttering curses that sound less like rage and more like abandonment. And Rimuru hesitates. Just a moment, just enough, and Feldway vanishes. Teleport, clean, untraceable. The battlefield erupts in disbelief, and Seal, cold, practical, reframes it instantly. He can't be tracked mid-jump, but the moment he returns to this world, he'll be found. Inconvenient, not catastrophic. And that's where the story leaves you. Not with a victory parade, with momentum, with war still unfolding across multiple fronts, with Milim and Veldora dispatched to confront Ivarage, with Rimuru preparing to support Guy against Velzard, with allies exhausted but moving anyway because stopping means dying, and with Diablo, as always, still there beside Rimuru, unasked, unwavering, natural, like a shadow that chose to become a shield. So what do you take from all this? Here's the truth, no sugarcoating. Diablo is not just interesting. Diablo is terrifying. Not because he's evil, not because he's cruel, but because he is devotion without breaks. A man who will step into oblivion with a smile if it means proving he belongs at his master's side. And Feldway? Feldway is what happens when certainty meets a world that refuses to obey. He didn't lose because he lacked power. He lost because he couldn't accept resistance without making it personal. He chose pride over efficiency. And Diablo, of course Diablo, was waiting for that choice like it was dessert. Because the scariest part isn't that Diablo fought the void, it's that he enjoyed it. And if Rimuru hadn't returned, if those last few seconds had gone differently, we wouldn't be talking about a close fight. We'd be talking about the end of everything. That's the trap. That's the design. You came to watch a demon butler throw hands. And you stayed because you realized you were watching a man gamble the world on belief and grin like it was beautiful. And somehow, against all logic, against all sanity, it was.